everyone, it's the patient Hodler coming at you with another live stream, and the first ever live stream with a guest on my channel. So to say, we got Corey, aka Oldrhubarb, aka Veve NFT, as a first appearance on this channel. Hey, how are you doing?
Very, very good. Thanks for having me, Raphael. I really appreciate being here, man. And it's cool to be your first ever collab for a live stream. That's awesome, man. Really, really appreciate it.
It's a first time for me as well, and yeah, I'm really happy to have you here as someone who is actually addressing a lot the collector side, where I am always rambling about the Ecomi tokenomics side. So this would be a good meet.
Yeah, I'm completely clueless about. I'm not completely clueless about tokenomics, but I definitely leave that to the more experienced hands, folks like you. And I like Crypto Chris Coffee and Crypto, I think is his new tag. There's quite a few really good creators that kind of focus on the crypto side of the house.
Absolutely right. And before we jump into some opening questions, I just want to. Actually, we got already 10 people here in the house. Wow. So, hey, guys, hey, everyone, smash up the like, subscribe to this channel and to Corey's channel, which you will see in a second. Just to have so Veve Versum's German YouTuber. He is also here. If you are German, also follow him. Hey, Jordan, what's up? Good evening, guys. Cheers.
Ding.
Jordan is already at the beer. And hey, Garrett, what's up? How are you doing? Hey.
It's noon here, so I mean, beer is on the menu. I think after lunch, we're safe for the beer. I think.
Even on a Monday.
It's always Sunday, right?
Yeah, we don't understand the question, but anyways, let's just take a quick look here, and I hope that I can. Yeah. So. Just to give you a heads up, so Corey, aka Oldrhubarb, aka Veve NFT, has this awesome Veve channel where he discusses every drop before it actually happens, where you can get all the background information about the drops. And actually, guys, this is my pre-drop ritual. I go there, I get all this, like you can see that here, that the stamp information, for example, is 4 minutes concentrated knowledge into my head. So then I know if I should go for the drop or not. I basically decide on my feeling, but also on that information. So I had to marathon through these before the drop. Awesome channel. And yeah, also follow him on Twitter and turn on notifications. I thought I did that. I got your notifications, but anyways, turn on notifications. So yeah,
it's neat seeing the language interface because your primary language is different. So like your subscribe buttons in your language, it's really neat.
Okay, you get the German touch here, right? So yeah, so that was the YouTube channel. So make sure after this, don't click out of this. The only thing that you should click right now is the like button. After this, make sure to head over to his channel and from there on implement it into your pre-drop ritual to watch these videos.
You don't have to, but I'd appreciate it.
I have so as I've already mentioned, I have some warm-up questions for you, but first we have to just say hello to some more people. So we got VP Wall here. Hey, VP Wall. We got Go Chris 007, a Bond collector, I guess. Metal Jack is here, another one from Germany. Moni, also from Germany. Jim Fart, two of my favorite Veve people. Such great info. We didn't even start with the info, right? And Jordan says, awesome wife as well. Your dynamic together on the last video was great. Oh, your wife. Okay, now I got this one. Yeah, that was great. I saw this one.
We're going to start rotating her into as kind of a co-host position on the show because, like you said, I cover every single drop before it happens. And sometimes whenever Veve decides to release, 5 consecutive comics back to back, and who knows if there'll be more drops outside of comics. So kind of nice having an extra person just in case I get sick or have an appointment. I got someone that can easily fill in. And you can't trust anyone more than you can trust your wife when it comes to that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think you are a very great duo. I know you know that I tuned into your live stream during my morning coffee, and I just enjoyed you talking about the collectibles and NFTs there. So how did you and you two get into the whole thing of, let's say, first Veve and NFTs? How did you get there?
Well, initially, I had a friend. I live in San Diego, California, and we're a military family, so we move quite a bit. And so I was kind of building up a group of friends to, you know, to lean on whenever I needed help because my wife is in the military. So at that point in time, she was on a 10-month deployment in the middle of the ocean. So zero wife, and I've got the kid, I've got work, and I've got a lot of things to tackle. So my friend Brian, who's really into crypto, is a big fan of Andre Jick, and Andre Jick was talking a whole bunch about Veve collectibles. And so Brian and I worked out at my house because I have a gym in my garage, and we would work out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So literally every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a period of a month, he was trying to sell me on the collectibles. Yeah, this is what Veve is. You should get into this. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. And then Veve announced Star Wars, and I'm just a massive Star Wars fan. And I was like, I'm in. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to see if it's legit. I'm not going to, you know, put myself in financial stress, but if I can afford it, I'll go in on this. And so I started with Star Wars, and then roughly around that time, I want to say it was Designer Con 2021 was happening. And there was a lot of content creators that are still here, but I was watching them, but no one was giving me any information about who the artists were. They were basically just like, you need to buy this because it's going to make you $1 bajillion, or don't buy this because it's not going to be worth anything. But there wasn't enough data involved. Like, after watching the videos, I didn't know who the artists were. I didn't know, you know, were these $1 million artists? Were they brand new independent artists? Do they have a background in designer toys or 2D art? And so I started doing a lot of research myself because I'm not the kind of guy that's just going to buy anything. I need to know, you know, who's the artist, what's the brand, what's the IP, is this worth my time, is this worth my money? And so I was doing a lot of that research on my own and kind of sharing it in my friend group. And they were like, you should just make videos, because no one's doing videos that are non-speculative. No one's doing just, here's the data. And I was like, I guess, but I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time doing it because I have a kid, I have a job, I have other responsibilities. And I was like, I guess if I made really short videos, and that's why my channel is called Veve N3, because initially my goal was to make every video 3 minutes or less, which my very first videos were 3 minutes or less, but it was just impossible to balance. Here's useful information, and here's just me sprinting through it really fast, and you're kind of left wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So I kind of abandoned the 3-minute thing, but I still try to keep them really short. But that's sort of my origin story, so to speak.
And that's awesome because I mean, you obviously abandoned the Veve in 3 minutes for quality and more content. So I really appreciate that, because now I get to enjoy 7-minute videos before the drop, like your Batman video. So I had no clue about all these artists, and you really, I mean, you can see that with all the dedication that you put in the videos. You really love to dig into that stuff, and I'm personally too lazy to do that. On the other hand, I have a similar story, because I always, at work, I explained to a colleague of mine on the whiteboard how, for example, VeChain worked with producing Vetho, and then how this gets slashed and so on. And then I also explained how the Omi burn works. And so I was in Omi before, or together with investing in Veve, but I didn't have a YouTube channel. So
Gotcha.
so then the colleague said, man, we have to get you into YouTube. And yeah, so I tried it, and now I'm here.
It's been a learning curve, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also the decision, do I do German videos or do I do it? But I watched almost only the English speaking videos, and so I got so comfortable with English audiobooks and stuff like that I kind of wanted to follow this line. And that's good, because if not, I wouldn't have met you. So
that's true.
Great.
It's a cool thing about the platform is it's a global thing, and it's a cool thing with the MTL. It's taking a long time for the MTL, the money transfer license, to happen, but it's because it's global, and Veve's always focused on global collector interest, not just, you know, people in the United States or people in Canada and sort of those European countries. It's a global project, and I think the fun part of that is me getting to figure out globally what people are excited about. Like whenever we did the Pilly Fantasy, remember when those drops from the puppet? I had never heard of it, and I think via that I didn't meet, but I got to start watching Dance Buddha Panda, I think is his name. He's a content creator out of the region,
Taiwan, right?
Yes, out of Taiwan, and it was just so awesome and interesting to get the perspective of a person that's into collectibles that was the target demographic, and it made you really excited for it. So the global aspect of it for me is a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. So, and what was first for you, Omi or the Veve NFTs?
Veve NFTs first, and then I think by proxy, a lot of content creators kind of focus on a lot of different things. And so a lot of the creators that I was watching that were talking about different drops were also talking about Omi, and then the Omi utility program was an article that they released, and they were talking about the different staking tiers. And I was like, all right, well, let's see what that's all about. And whenever I looked, Omi was at like not an all-time low, but I think whenever I first got there, it was around like 0.008 or something like that. And then whenever I considered it like legitimately, it was at like 0.002 or 0.003. And I was like, I could buy a whole bunch of this for not very much money. It's not that huge of a risk. And it's kind of the backbone that this stuff is built on. And it's hard for me to believe in Veve and the NFTs that are being produced without believing in kind of the backbone that they're being produced with.
Although they kind of tear the meat from that backbone
Yes,
for the moment, right? So that I think that's why a lot of people are getting uncomfortable, but shouldn't be the main topic here. But we will definitely tap a little bit into the whole stuff with the Omi utility program when we're talking about collectibles and what we can actually expect in the future. I think that the value proposition of these collectibles, especially comics, will be very, very interesting here. But speaking of that, so what are you more of, like comics or collectibles on the app?
Historically, I've always kept like an 80-20 kind of split with my Veve portfolio, 80% comics and about 20% collectibles. And I try to focus on collectibles that have really strong franchises or brands or IPs that I believe that are going to be used a whole bunch in the future. So I'm not super hardcore into collectibles. I'm far more bullish on comics. And it's just because I think historically I've always liked comics. It's always been an interest of mine. I've never been a hardcore comic collector, but I've always been interested in comics. And that started whenever I was a little kid. I think the first quasi comics I ever got was Calvin and Hobbes. Have you ever heard of Calvin and Hobbes before? By Bill Watterson is the artist and writer for those. And those were books, kind of like thicker, kind of Peanuts style books. And I have all of those. Like my dad would get those for me. I love them. And that was whenever I first realized that a comic can be more than a comic. It can be a really interesting story with really amazing artwork. So you're kind of getting 2 for 1. And I have a background in writing stories. So that format just appeals to me.
Was that your first experience of collecting, like becoming a collector in that sense, or?
No, my dad collected stamps and coins whenever I was very, very young. And so a fun thing that would happen is we would go to like antique stores and hobby shops, and he would kind of talk. Usually my dad's a talker, and that's where I get it. You know, he would immediately find the person in charge and just start chatting to them about, you know, comment, whatever it is he was looking for. And while he was doing that, because that was boring for me, I would like rummage through the place and find the box of, you know, super old comics and sleeves that were like a quarter each at that time, and kind of just sit there and read and kind of go into my own little world. So it's very nostalgic for me to get to look at some of these comics.
Yeah, that's great. I think for me it was the Asterix. I don't know if that actually is the name in the US as well, like from France, these comics with a little galleon like the one that has superpowers because of the drink of the druid.
Right?
Oh
wow! What is it called?
I don't know. Asterix and Obelix in German. I don't know if that's actually also the one for French and English, the name, but these are some pretty famous comics here, and I think originally from France. Yeah.
I'd love for you to message that to me here in the private chat on StreamYard.
Yeah,
I'll check into that after the stream. That's very cool.
Yeah, I bet you know them if you see them. But
I bet you're right.
so I think that was the first experience, and then also my dad went many times with us to collect fossils, to find them. So there's something in the. It's almost like a drop. Let's say you get to find some very unique things, right?
And you talked about it in one of your videos, how collecting is sort of in our DNA, just as human beings. So I think it's very easy to kind of fall into a niche of collectibles that you're really passionate about, because we're kind of just built as humans to want to collect and acquire things.
Yeah, and I kind of believe that everyone, I've never met a person where you don't find something that they are collecting, even without knowing. I've never, if you think back in your brain, there's no one where you would say, no, this is the anti-collector. That is, he does, even if it's only collecting experience, even if it's a person that sells everything and moves to another country, they are collecting experiences or crazy journeys, right? So you can even collect non-material stuff. So
correct.
And that is something that makes me so bullish on Veve, because I know that the potential for Veve is basically everyone with an end device where Veve runs on in every part of the world, because they all are somehow collectors. And now there's more accessibility than if you would have to buy whatever it is, Pokemon cards, Marvel Comics, physically via eBay or something online. So that collecting is just more fun, not more fun in that sense, but different, and with many more people on Veve, or in the internet as itself.
And you probably know this better than I do, and I might even not be 100% factually correct, but an interesting thing that I read about like Bitcoin is initially there's a huge barrier to entry for Bitcoin. Like you had to be really technically savvy. You might have to build a rig to actually acquire them. But the second it became accessible to the mass market, the value skyrocketed. And that's kind of what Veve's done. They've built in accessibility from the get-go. You could argue that they put accessibility as the highest priority for the platform before anything else.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you just hit here with Bitcoin, because actually there are so many similarities for some. If you consider a certain amount of like the early Veve NFTs, for example, or season 1 NFTs, or let's say the first comics, whatever you take, there is even the price action like going up in a big way and then crashing down to under drop prices, and everyone freaking out, being scared, running around like headless chicken, and so on. I think that is, and I wasn't even in Bitcoin at the time, because if not, I would be rich probably, or insanely poor and frustrated. I don't know, either way. But I think that in the early days of Bitcoin, it shot up from $20 to $500 and corrected back down to $38. That was a point where many people sold a ton of Bitcoin to take this $10 profit on the Bitcoin. So I see similarities here when you just have the golden moment, or whatever Batman shoot up. Some of the Batmans, like Joe Madureira, shot up to 2.5K and corrected down to 600 or something. So yeah, a lot of people were not happy with that. I don't know if you feel the same here.
Yeah, I see that happen as well. I think my focus on brand and artist and franchise and IP doesn't make me immune to market fluctuations, but it increases my confidence during times of slumps, because the things that I'm purchasing and collecting, I'm not doing so with the concept of this is immediate profit. I'm doing so because, one, I might love it. It might be a thing that I'm just very passionate about and I want to really have. And two, I have faith in what I'm buying before I buy it. And so I'm looking very long at all of this. So whenever we're in kind of these market slumps, I don't care quite as much. Like I definitely empathize with, you know, the community sentiment, and it's a bummer, you know, but I think being informed kind of saves you some of that stress and heartache.
Yeah, I think so too. And also, this is always has been my investment strategy, where I'm missing out on a lot, but I also have a healthy mind, let's say. Is I'm a hodler. Yeah, my name says it, right? So I buy and I hodl, and I have huge difficulties to risk a flip, because I immediately, when I buy something, I get attached to that collectible, either because it's low mint, scarce, big IP, or I just like the looks of it. And so it's extremely hard to flip it. I tried it once and it went horribly wrong. It was the Lebicorn. I sold it for, like, right after the drop. I was like, what, 200? I sold it and it shot up to 500, and it didn't come back under the 200 mark. As of, like, in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it came back under that one. But yeah, I just thought, man, had I only held this one, right?
and I relate to the people who flip for profit. And you and I talked privately before this stream, and we talked about how I have a partner statue. I was lucky enough to get a partner statue after the drop at a pretty low price. 2.6K is what I paid for my partner statue. And whenever it went up and up and up during that massive market pump, at one point it was about 30K. And every night I was like, I think I'm just going to sell this and take my profit. And in retrospect, you wish that you did, but what happens if it never would have came back down? Would I have been able to live with that decision? I would have taken my profit and that would have been great. But what happens if it never would have came back down? So for me, it's just much easier just to sit and relax and hold the things that I believe truly are going to be valuable, instead of trying to constantly make moves. I appreciate the hustle. You know, I love watching people, you know, here's how I took 300 gyms and turned it into 10,000 over the course of, I love watching that, but for me, that's just too high stress, and that's not who I am. I'm not a high stress, let's, you know, mix it up kind of guy. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, and you have to be alert and focus all the time, because if there's a sudden move in the market,
yes,
you could lose your rebuy, because the whole water level just moves up so quickly. I mean, we have seen that there was no comic. I think there was a time where there was almost no comic under 20 gems. Unimaginable. Like, we are only 2 months after that.
And then also, you almost have to get into sort of nefarious groups, because, you know, to be fair, there is market manipulation, because the scarcity of some of these items are so limited that a group of people can artificially pump and inflate the value of a thing and pull that rug whenever they want. So if you're just looking at charts like I do, using, you know, like Ecomi wiki via Omi the Clown or Cherry Charts, whatever it is you're using, you're not getting the full picture. Even though those charts are telling you a thing, a group of people at a moment's notice could completely shatter your investment. And for me, that's not a risk I'm willing to take.
Well, I completely agree. Let's just, before I just ignore everyone here, we get thoughts about HRO, maybe quickly respond that, because it's not the topic of the stream, but even then, I don't know. Greetings from Amsterdam, so greetings to neighbor country.
Do you wanna give your thoughts first, bud?
Oh yeah, sure. So actually, I'm not an HRO, so that's easy to respond. So I can give my thoughts on it as a bystander that isn't invested and has no idea. I know what I really love about the concept is the combination of physical and digital. I think the art that I've seen from the picture, like the Joker arts, is amazing. It's DC art, so we gonna probably see it somehow on the Veve app as well, probably as a full comic book instead of comic covers that are collecting. And the only thing, that I probably would criticize is that I think it's very hyped at the moment, and we don't know how much the print run will be in the end. Like, it reminds of Pokemon, where they were just, oh, everything sold out at Walmart, and I don't know, so let's just print another billion, right? And even with I think 1 billion cards or so, I don't know who told this, as it was in Twitter Space or on a video. I don't remember. But even with more than 1 billion cards, these values are insane today. So I kind of see the point of HRO. What are your thoughts?
I'm in HRO. I'm not heavily in it. I can clarify a few things. My understanding is that the print run for the first edition is 6.5 million total, and they said that they're not going to print anymore after that. So the first edition will always be the first edition. Overall, from an investment standpoint, like I bought a digital booster pack for $50, and I could sell that and cash out for like 700. So there is sort of a hype value, but I do agree with you that there's a lot of people that started in Veve and still are in Veve that are now enjoying the euphoria of a new shiny thing, and that's great, because ultimately I believe in HRO because HRO is being produced by a company, or at least partnered with a company called Card Mundi. And Card Mundi has a background in producing digital NFT cards. And here I go. I won't go long because I know this isn't the topic, but Card Mundi's first foray into cards was via Bicycle playing cards, which, Bicycle is the brand that makes kind of your poker style cards, a standard deck of cards. And Card Mundi partnered with Bicycle and released the first ever set of digital NFT cards. And they did, and this is relatively unknown information, but if you search this yourself, I think you'll be really impressed with the overall quality of those cards, their appearance, the artwork. And they also did a lot of really clever sort of marketing and airdrops as part of that effort. And these were just playing cards. And so some of the things that excite me about HRO is obviously we are getting top tier artwork. Oh, I hit the mic. And I'm even seeing artwork from some of the most famous names from DC, like Jim Lee, the creative director and head of I think he's the head publisher for DC Comics at this point. And that partnership,
who made the Batman statue from the last
just
drop,
made
right?
our Batman statue 100%. And that partnership with Warner Brothers and DC that HRO has right now is 10 years. So there's a whole bunch of content that is going to be available to them. The questions that I have that are currently unanswered, we kind of know what the print run is right now, 6.5 million. But you have the digital boosters, and that's a finite number. There's not going to be any more of those. And we know how many are printed. And I'm curious to see, once all of these pre-orders of physical cards arrive, what will that do to the overall value of the cards? But I think if you come from like a trading card background, you kind of understand that the first edition of something that is successful is always going to hold quite a bit of value. So in my opinion, the long-term value of this first run of cards is going to be 100% contingent on the future success of HRO. If HRO is here in 25 years and it's a company that still exists, this first run of their cards, it's the first ever run, all of them are going to have some substantial value, especially because of the physical digital pairing.
Yeah, I like the point of that, and now I think I missed out, but there's only so much money that you can ape into something. Yeah.
And I wasn't even going to buy any physicals. And then Heather, I was working on an info dump, and I was like, I kind of wish we would have got a few of the physicals. And she's like, we bought like $400 and something worth of them. And I was like, what? Damn. And she's like, yeah, I just went ahead and bought them because I knew you were on the fence about it. But Heather is starting a side channel, which is, I think, going to be its own channel called Heroes and Heroines, HROS and HROINES, Hero and Heroines. And she's been dedicating a whole bunch of time to researching the print runs, the background of the company, the people involved, the licensing, the marketing. Awesome. And because of that, she was just in a better position than I was to make that decision. Because much like me, we kind of base our financial decisions on the research that we do. And so if she felt really confident after doing, a week's worth of info dives, and I mean, she has like 100 pages of Word documents with all kinds of information in it. She's really dove into it. So I feel pretty confident about it at this point.
So you guys see already from that how deep they dove into the info, and thank you for sharing that info, all the stuff with Warner Bros. Because it's new to me actually in that depth. That's probably the reason why this number 6 set of the Batmans is listed below Warner Bros. And not anymore DC Direct, correct? Because the brand.
I bet you're right. I bet you're right.
Yeah. And also, just by the way, I think we have seen in the description that the brand is also linked with DC Comics, right? In the description text, which is awesome. And yeah, which brings me to, but I have a point here, but just let me get to some more of the comments here. So you see, Asterix Obelix is a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's called apparently The Adventures of Asterix. So yeah, so very, very funny, very well made, and a lot of cultural links there. He also said, I also grew up with Asterix Obelix comic. Do you guys know if there will be a limit on gem buys on the website once it's launched? I don't know, but I hope not, because we want them whales in the market.
Yeah, I haven't seen any information that gives us hard data on that. And even a lot of the information that's released via Medium, they always put a disclaimer on the end, you know, don't build your life around this article until the final iteration, even for like the MCP and like the OUP and the staking. They're like, don't rearrange your life around this because this isn't the final iteration yet. So that'd be stinky if there was a limit on gem buys.
Hey Luke, what's going on? Luke is one of the early supporters. It's like when I had 10 people watching me. NFTU has paused drops until May, and Recurse Star Trek drop flopped hard. Veve is still king. Yeah, I mean, somewhat. I think overall, and this might be a little bit unpopular opinion, but I think, and I don't know how you feel about this, but we have this these memes like HRO slapping Veve in the face, and then we have Recur is going to do this. Did you guys hear about the Recur passes and so on? At this point, such early in the market,
yes,
competition is almost always more healthy than it really damages. I mean, in these times, we know how damaging a real war can be, like
yes,
between two parties. There are no winners. We see that also with the current conflict. One country is destroyed, the other one destroyed by sanctions. So there's no winners in wars. But what Recur, HRO, and Veve have is they share communities, and they broaden an NFT community by attracting to different types of collectors, investors, and so on. And we see that HRO has a big share of mutual Veve investors. This can work the other way around, that people are attracted to HRO and or to whatever is in the IMX ecosystem, and then get drawn into Veve. And I mean, you can look at the scarcity of the collectibles within Veve. If we just get some more people, there's already be a hard fight over those. What do you think about this?
And I think Reese said it well. And for those of you I'm not sure what Reese's actual, I think he's one of the developers for the platform, the head developer, or maybe he's head of marketing. But he said, and it was kind of a throwaway statement in the very last AMA, someone asked about HRO, and he said something that was very, very intelligent, which he often does. He's a very eloquent speaker, but he said, we all rise together. And he's 100% right. The success of a similar company that's focusing on a single thing on the IMX blockchain is super important, and it raises the overall value of everything that happens on IMX. And it's not direct competition because the product isn't the same whatsoever. It's not even so. The closest thing that we have, you could argue, are lenticular cards, which are so completely different. Those are the only that's the only card category that exists right now on Veve. And if and when Pokemon happens, I doubt it'll be cards. To be fair, I think it's probably going to be collectibles, would be my guess, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe the cards for trading card game are probably on the on IMX directly, and then everything that works, or maybe even with a card you can get X collectible or something. But I mean that's a whole Pokemon story that we already had. But in terms of competition, as you said, that like a rising tide lifts all boats up, right?
Yes.
And this market is so small. It's like a niche in an early market, which is the crypto one. Like NFTs is just this little sprout that is coming out of that and has so much potential. And I think a lot of the fear of people and uncertainty with their investment comes from this mindset that there's only one winner all the time. But if you look in the crypto market, Bitcoin did not win over the others. Bitcoin just is the first thing that attracts people to invest. Also me, I invested first in Bitcoin, and then I looked around what else was there. And then you see how Bitcoin tops out and it trickles down in the other project, and there are so many layer ones and layer twos that are just booming with the rising market cap. Why should it be different with NFTs? And why should there only be, for example, one metaverse to win in the end? It's like Decentraland is going to destroy them all, right?
And that's what I think people forget, that NFTs are so early. There are so many more examples that are talked about of failed projects and blatant scams. We need more NFT projects that are proven, true, collector focused, to get people outside of these spaces excited and willing to come into the space. And I think we're seeing that on the physical side of the house with major auction houses that have existed since like the 1700s, with Sotheby's auction house and Christie's auction house. Those are physical auction houses that have been in existence for more than a century, since the 1700s. And they are making more money than they ever have in the history of them existing. Mind you, that's centuries, from NFTs. And that tells me that the older money, the people who are less into speculative investment, because if you're super rich, like if you're crazy rich, you don't really need to do that much speculative. You could just chill out and live off of your dividends and interest. But whenever people like that are entering the space to buy, you know, I think I saw Bay C, like the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs on Christie's. And another good example, if you just type in Christie's and then type in Beeple, Beeple, that is an artist who has now sold the third, for a living artist, it is the third largest amount of money from a single sale of art, and it was an NFT. The NFT sold for $36 million, or it's either 36 or 63. I might have the numbers backwards, but regardless, that's a huge amount of money. And whenever you see that amount of money being invested from traditionally physical houses, it's showing that there's a shift in momentum and a shift in investor feeling. And we need that to happen more with these mobile and, you know, web platform type platforms. So the more that succeed and aren't scams and rug pulls, the better for all of us overall. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, you see that also with Ripple. Like everyone is cheering for Ripple winning against the SEC, just because it's good for the whole space.
It is.
And so, for example, here we had in the chat right now, and sorry guys if I miss any of the comments, because chat is going faster now. Many comments here about like a discussion going on that Recur would be bad or so. I cheer for Recur and HRO and all of these do well. I believe that Veve will stay on the throne just for the quality and the user base and engagement, everything they're doing. But I cheer for Recur to do at least well, because it is, as you said, it's just not good if there's a project that brings shadow onto the topic of, and even if it doesn't have to die, if it's shitty NFT, it's not good for the whole look of NFTs, right?
I agree.
Yeah, and we got Gunnery Sergeant Darnell here, the man with the broken caps lock. It's like each company has their own niches.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Veve's doing right. And sadly, I think a lot of the user base of Veve doesn't see that as a right. But whenever we have what people would say is, Gary Baseman's a good example. Gary Baseman released Toby. And I would say probably 98% of the user base was like, what are these? Like, what's happening right now? These look awful. But what Veve is doing is they are introducing not just one niche of collectibles, but they're introducing cars with major partnerships, Triumph, GM, freaking Aston Martin. Those are major licensing deals. And we've got posters now. We've got lenticular cards. We've got 2D art. We've got 3D art. We've got comics. Now we have designer toys, and we're getting all kinds of subsects and subcategories of those. For every single one of those that releases, even if it just brings 1,000 new people to the platform, that's how Veve wins. They create. If you go, when Amazon first started, the website of Amazon, and this is the golden age of the internet, right? Like dial up, like when Amazon first started, they did one thing: books. And the reason Jeffrey Bezos picked books is because books fill every niche that exists. For every person that likes a thing, there is a book associated with that thing. It was an insanely smart move, because by focusing specifically and only on books, he captured a global audience of people. That is exactly what we're seeing on Veve. And so for every drop that maybe it's not a mass appeal drop, what Veve is doing, in my eyes, is they're adding another category of quote unquote books to the shelf. And eventually that is going to be a library of books. And no matter what it is that you love as a collector, it's going to be available on Veve. And that is the big picture in my eyes.
Very well said. And that something came to my mind as well. I made a video about this a couple of months ago in the beginning, because you have to imagine, when we see these brands with Veve, we already take it as granted. It's like, oh yeah, Aston Martin, cool, sorry. I mean, it fits the picture, like DC, Veve with all, Disney with all the sub-brands like Lucasfilms, Pixar, and so on. And then you have USPS and whatever. Like, you have this huge umbrella already of brands. But if you have to really think, what does that mean? Like, they have started out 4 years ago, and you cannot imagine just whatever startup going to a brand like Disney, like Aston Martin or Warner Bros. Or so, and say, hey, look, I have this cool app here, and you can launch your NFTs here, so please give me a year-long license. They would just kick them out before they even have a meeting with the CEO. So the question is, what was the leverage to make the decision makers to bring to the sales pitch, to bring the first brands onto the app? And in my way, I always I compared that in the video with astronomy. So how do people determine if there are exoplanets? Because we don't have telescopes that reach so far, but we can observe other objects that we can see, and their gravitational, oh, sorry, I beat the microphone here now, and the gravitational drift. So we can see that some objects are being misdirected by the gravity of something bigger. So if we see that so many big brands are being pulled into a center of mass, which is led by David Yu and Dan and Reese and so on, my question is, what's in that center of mass that they brought to that sales pitch? Right now, this black hole is growing, but it could be, just speculating, but it could be someone like Alfred Khan with Nintendo and Niantic connections, but also the man that gave Ash Ketchum his name, that made Yu-Gi-Oh! What it is today, and even together in a team with people that are just going completely crazy over collectibles themselves. So in my opinion, if you really dive into that rabbit hole, you see how big this stuff really is.
And I love a good origin story. And I think it was back in December. They had the December AMA. This was around the 12 days of Veve and like the Veve Festivus thing that was happening. And maybe it was the February AMA. It's the only AMA where Alfred Khan was actually a speaker. And he said something that forever is going to be like part of Veve's origin story for me, because you know I like a story. He talked about how whenever they were brainstorming this project, and a thing that he misses most is that Daniel Carruthers and David Yu like flew to his house and basically just lived in his house for like 2 weeks while they flushed out how they were going to do this. So it's interesting because I think whenever we think of a lot of these licensing deals and all, it's boardroom type stuff, right? It's like a conference call, big long table, a guy at the head of the table, and David Yu with a projector and a laser pointer pointing at slides and being like, I believe the revenue from this is a group of people who have spent their entire lives collecting and being successful at there's a difference, I think, between being a guy like me who likes Legos and, you know, puts them together and has them on the shelf, and a guy like Alfred Khan or David Yu who dedicates everything about their life to collectibles and becomes very, very multimillionaires in doing that. And whenever you have a group of like that, a group of those minds come together to brainstorm a thing, I just have to wonder what it would be awesome to have been a fly on the wall during those conversations to hear what their big picture thoughts were for what this thing was going to become, because we're still in the very early days. A lot of the tools and features, they don't even exist on the platform yet, you know, and some of them weren't even slated to exist. Like MTL was money transfer was never supposed to be a thing. And now it is going to be a thing. So it's grown beyond what even their initial thoughts were. So I'm excited to see what happens with it.
We already have a big Recur versus Veve battle in the chat.
Oh goodness!
Gunnery Sergeant Darnell is fighting with Jerry about it, so I think the rest is just chilling.
You guys can just you can like both. I think everyone has a, not everyone, but I feel like in our culture right now, there's this need for people to try to convince. It's almost like you're an evangelist, like you have to like share information, and it's not enough to share the information. You need to change people's minds and, you know, alter their perception of a thing for the rest of their lives via, you know, messages and stuff like that. And I think that's like the focus of my channel. I never tell people what they should buy and what they shouldn't buy. I never say, you know, this is going to make you $1 million. All I do is I give you all the information in a short amount of time, and I'll let you know what I'm going to do, but I never tell people what they should be doing. And I think that's how you respect people. You give them the information and you let them make the best decision that they can with that information.
Yeah, and actually, I don't understand why you need so many words to just convert someone. There's only one word, and it's vololo. that's the only one needed. Also, when Age of Empire NFTs on Veve, right? But
oh my gosh.
No, actually, coming back to quickly to that point that you said, like how. Did you read that article about Alfred Khan from, I think it was Vanity Fair or something, that described how Alfred Khan went from almost nothing to 4 kids, and like that scene, and that shows what's the real value behind this team is the networking aspect. Like that described scene where he buys a samurai statue that has been brought to America from probably World War II for $100,000 or something, and wants to give it to the president of Nintendo. And so like these things, like, it's unimaginable for us to put that much effort into a relationship that then later pays off. And I think these things make an impression. And I mean, this guy was set for life. He didn't have to come back for Veve, but he wanted to. And actually, this project got me hooked so much that I try since 4 months or so not to go for any more drops and get my bank account straight.
Yes.
But I'm not going to buy this beginning of the month. I said I'm not going to buy anything more until I'm flattened out with. And then I bought Flounder and Sebastian, Golden Moment, and a full Batman set on the drop and all the comics, and I think some rares and ultra rares. Yeah, it proves how good they are in creating this collector feeling.
I agree, and they're piggybacking off of things that are known successful commodities and not just kind of even Gary Basement's Toby, as much as it has suffered in the market and as much as it confused a lot of people, that is a known successful commodity. And for the people who are interested in that, they'll spend a lot of money for it. And whenever I talked to David Yu, and we talked about this, and I think, yeah, the interview's public. So after that interview, he talked about how a lot of the things that are releasing on Veve right now, because these are still the early days, they're trying to figure out what is the blend between limiting mints, like how many are produced, and how does that impact collector interest? And so I think what we're seeing with a lot of the designer toy things, we're kind of in an era where they might be overproduced, but I think eventually they're going to get that number just right. And what we're seeing with every single drop is them tweaking edition sizes and numbers to figure out where is the happy medium. And I wouldn't be surprised once we have mass adoption if those mint sizes change again. Because this is we're supposed to be talking about comics, I guess, but
yeah.
One of the things that David Yu talked about with comics and Marvel specifically is that Marvel Comics is a test bed for comics in general on the platform. There will be more publishers on the platform eventually. They started with Marvel because that was the license that made the most sense and it had the largest amount of mass appeal. But the reason that, you know, Amazing Spider-Man 252 released 1K and maybe Alpha Flight #1 released 10K and a standard comic release right now is 30K is what Marvel is trying to understand is what is that perfect number. And by limiting certain things and releasing standard numbers for other things, having different exclusive artists, different exclusive things, what does that do to this new demographic of collector? Because like we've said a bunch of times, this is all brand new. NFTs are brand new. So they're trying to figure out, they're trying to dial in to what the average user is going to expect and want and desire. So it's interesting that we're kind of like on the ground, we're getting to see the growing process. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to weather emotionally. Is a lot of the things that happen seem senseless. I remember personally when I had every single comic on the platform, a version of it, you know, not like a common uncommon of every single one, but I had at least one version of every single comic that existed. And then that Amazing Spider-Man 252 dropped with 1K. And I was like, well, that's it. If I don't get it on the drop, I'll never be able to. And I was really, really frustrated. And I was like, why would they do that? Like this comic isn't even that important in terms of it's not physically that valuable from a physical collector standpoint. There wasn't a major first appearance in that comic. You have Spider-Man's black suit, but that wasn't even the first appearance of that black suit. It was an iconic cover. And I just couldn't wrap my head around why 1K? Like, why would they do that? Like, are they artificially trying to increase the value of a comic that's maybe not worth that much? And that was an assumption I made, and it was an incorrect assumption because David Yu literally told me exactly why. They're trying to understand how shifting the mint numbers and the numbers being produced is going to impact the collectability and desirability, because ultimately their primary focus always is going to be premium collectibles and satisfying the wants and desires of a wide group of people. Some people are just casual collectors. Some people just want to have a comment of a comic that they think is cool. And some people want to have a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 10. And they've got to figure out how to satisfy that need for everyone. And so we're witnessing history, you know, as it unfolds.
And that's super amazing. And also it's interesting because you mentioned the 252. It was exactly that point that also broke my collecting streak, because I bought one of each common independently of what I got from the I got from the drop on ultra rare. I would buy the common to just have this common, like, and I even told to myself, because in the beginning it was an investment for me, but then I told myself I am going to sell off all these secret rares and stuff in the future for money, but the commons I will always keep, like just to have a collection to look back that is testimony to my journey. And then this drop came, and I was like you. It's like I get a have to get that on the drop because people will go crazy about it. But now I'm thinking, I mean, maybe in the future I can flip my way to get that one as well, but it doesn't matter so much to me anymore. What's more interesting to me is this common has how many? Like the common has 500, 600 editions.
We've only had the 1K. I have all the other mint breakdowns memorized, but
Yeah.
because we've only had that 1K, I think it goes 500 to, I can't remember the breakdown, but yeah, it's very, very limited.
Let's say it's like usually it's like half of the comics, or even a little bit more, allocated to commons. So that's what a secret rare is for other comics. It's 600, but the secret rares of other comics are trading at 100 gems right now. So if you want to have something just because it's scarce, you can get a bunch of secret rares right now that are trading around that price point. Just grab some of those, right?
And an interesting thing about comics on the platform right now is what I think a lot of people forget about comics, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe they realize it and they don't care, but comics are a utility piece in terms of the MCP points that they give you. And so a secret rare comic currently gives you 6 points per day for the MCP program, which is going to translate into better chances at drops down the road. And so every one of those comics has built in, beyond the utility of being able to read it, potentially rent, like those are for me, those are like pipe dreams. Like eventually down the road, maybe once we can move these things in the metaverse, I'll be able to rent, my low mint Spider-Man #1 to a library or a bookstore or a comic shop. And every time someone goes into that shop and they read the comic, I'll get a little bit of money as kind of like a user fee, and that's how I'll rent it out. That's like super long-term utility. But the current utility is they give you per point per dollar more bang for your buck than literally anything.
Oh, did your microphone die? I think, yeah. So not really. I don't know, guys, in the chat, just tell us, do you hear me? Probably Corey, do you hear me? I don't hear anything, so.
This.
No, you're back. Yeah.
I'm just gonna use my headset. It's gonna sound a little tinier, but I just did an update on the primary microphone, and it is being temperamental. So here, let's just get this out of the way.
Shouldn't be a problem here. While so you were, sorry, I completely lost the thread here, but you were saying.
No, I was just saying that secret rares just present a huge amount of utility in terms of just the MCP points that they're going to be giving you per day. Because the price per point for these secret rares that are selling for 100 gems is just a huge amount of value. And once the MCP does roll out and we have global leaderboards and ranking, it's going to decimate the floors of a lot of these collectibles, especially things like secret rares that are giving you an immense amount of points per day. So if we circle back to Amazing Spider-Man 252, that comic costs a lot of money, and it costs a lot of money because it's so scarce. If scarcity was equal amongst all comics, because comic supplies have been decimated by a group of the top 10, top 20, top 30 ranked people on the platform, what's that going to do to the overall value of comics across the board, and collectibles across the board for that matter? It's just something to think about. MCP isn't 100% ironed out, and we don't have the final iteration of it yet, so we can't make all of our decisions based on something that hasn't been confirmed, but it's definitely something that I keep in the back of my mind.
I think just while we are at the scarcity point, I just share the Ecomi wiki here on the side, just so people get an idea. I'm just not, so can I? Okay, and now I have a bar because my mouse wheel is a little bit broken. But we can see here, right? I sorted this by total listed. And I mean, here we have it. There are the variants. So that, this is already total listed is already Powers of X and Ultimate Fallout coming in here, not the others of the Amazing Spider-Man. So you have only 9 left of those. So I don't know what is going on, but maybe some of you can break some theories as well. I know that there was some delisting going on from bot
Correct.
accounts or nefarious accounts, but
And then
I mean,
also it just standardly delists, even if you're not a bot, after I think it's 6 months, it just automatically delisted. So if you listed it for $1 billion as a flex to show that you own Amazing Spider-Man 252 and it's been 6 months, it's just automatically delisted at this point.
I think it's 1 month now, right? That there is delisting for everyone. Energy wants to know how many SRs, secret rares, do you have? Like, you mean the comics, right, Energy?
I mean, I'm not a whale. I think I have total maybe 140 something comics, and I think of those, probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 of them are secret rares. I typically only buy secret rares if it's a comic I really, really believe in, or someone has floored a low mint, because you got to keep in mind for comics, if it's in the top 5% of the mints, you're getting that special low edition bonus. So the 6-point secret rare, if it's under you know, a 30K comic, the bottom 1,500 of those comics, all of those give you an additional 50% points. So now that one comic gives you 9 points per day, which is bonkers. To accomplish that with standard collectibles, you would have to have like a whole load of collectibles in a complete set to get as many points for a single day. A really good tool, if you're not using it, is Veve Set Rank, Veve Set List, and that's made by Bravos Assassin on Twitter. And what I like about that is you can sort it by points per dollar. So you can, you know, so you can just use the top click, and it'll literally show you what is the best points per dollar item on the platform right now. And he's been doing all kinds of. I think it's Veve Set List. Here, let me look on my side. Veve
so everyone check that out, because I mean, we want to get prepared for MCP. Okay, so Veve Set List.
I'll just send it to you here in private chat. But that, in my opinion, as a free tool, is one of the best free tools that exist. And again, that's from Bravos Assassin on Twitter. And he's one of those people that's been doing all that blockchain like sleuthing whenever the bots were super rampant. And this was just like a week ago. He was publicly posting, you know, of the last 10K drop, I think only 270 wallets received that drop off the drop that had more than one collectible. The rest of the, you know, 8,300 of them went to accounts that had 0 collectibles. And whenever he posted that, shortly thereafter, Veve shut down the ability to transfer. And so it's exciting that we have people in our community that are doing that work. Because historically, Veve has told us time and time again that the number of bots that are actually existing is this amount, and I'm not sure those numbers were very accurate, not judging by the blockchain, you know, data that we're able to look at now.
That's awesome. The site, I actually didn't knew that, although someone might have already told me. But I mean, just going over it real quick.
And you just click at the very top. Like if you click that MCP, it doesn't look like a clickable, but where it says money/MCP on the top right, if you just click that, it'll rearrange it all for you. So if you just click that.
Okay, I had a huge lag on that side, I guess.
Okay.
So now I sorted it by brand. But anyways, as we can see here, so we have to spend like $14.85 per MCP. Yeah, I already was eyeing that stamp set, because it's like 4 stamps. The ultra rare, which is the last more scarce piece, is like 60 gems or something like that. You spend a total of 130, which you. But on the other hand, then you have like if you spend 100 on a secret rare comic, you are at 6 points, and if it's a low mint, you are, as you said, you are exceeding that value already.
Correct.
Right? So that is the power of these NFTs. Yeah. Great. We got some love here from Portfolio, so thank you, man, and thank you to everyone who joined here. Please smash the like to get this out to the algo a little bit more. Sorry about that.
And that's a free tool. I think that's my favorite part of it. You don't got to pay a penny for that, and it's just so much information and quickly accessible too. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think you can switch between collectibles and comics, so there's like a comic side to that as well. But yeah, super slick tool.
Yeah, as you can see, it's very, very Spartan, very basic. It's exactly what I love.
Me too.
Yeah. Great, man. Thank you for that recommendation. And I believe that a lot of people are thinking the same.
Oh yeah, they're at the very, very top. Sets, comics,
Oh, yeah.
collectibles, and learn
There
in the
we go.
top right.
Yeah, let's look at
And so you
comics
could
here.
click comics, you could sort by MCP points per dollar, and you could see right now what is the cheapest thing on the platform per MCP point. So now you just click that top right, MCP
Okay,
per
so now,
dollar.
oh, that's the most expensive, right?
Yeah, now click that one. There you go.
Okay, so all of these rares, like you can see that's already what we suspected, right? The rares are completely undervalued right now.
Correct.
So you have a bunch of rares just in terms of getting 2 MCP points for
$7 each.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
And then imagine you just if you have a specific one where I mean most of these are exclusive Veve exclusive covers, right? I think you have something specific to tell about that, or at least we can talk a little bit about this because it's super interesting. But if you not only get the MCP points for like cheap ass amount of money, which is only 2,350 people on the world can own this, and some of this went away to the team and so on. So you're left over with total 2,200 and something. Like for some bucks, that you get an exclusively designed cover, which if all the nerd collectors in the world know about this, man, if I see that right now, I just need to get 145 ready and just buy myself through 10 of these.
And the thing with the exclusive covers is I've been talking to a lot of physical comic collectors by proxy because of my interactions with comics and crypto and some other people who are really focusing and trying to create more visibility for digital NFT comics for physical collectors. Because a lot of those people are coming from physical collector backgrounds. So their friend group and the group that they normally interact with are physical collectors. And of course, they're trying to get those people excited. And a really natural segue is on the physical side of the house, comics of higher notoriety typically have variant covers that are created for them. So you'll have the original comic, that was produced. And I'm talking physical comics now. So the original comic that was produced. And then if that comic is popular, it'll be homaged and they'll create different variants of that cover. And so as those people transition to Veve, it's going to make a lot of sense to them, these exclusive covers, because immediately they understand, oh yeah, comics have variant covers. That's a thing that I like. And a lot of times variant covers come from very exclusive artists like Alex Ross or Gabriel Del Otto. There are some immensely talented artists that create variants and they're very highly sought after. So the variant version of the book, it may be worth, and typically variant covers on the physical side of the house, they're limited in their print run as well. So there's less of them. So not only are they more beautiful and from, a very important artist, there's less of them and that drives the value. So as you start seeing these exclusive covers drop on Veve, that's why every single time I cover a comic, I try to tell you, who is this exclusive artist? Is this, a major exclusive artist, or is this, an artist who's just cutting their teeth and getting into this kind of thing? And we're seeing some pretty legitimate artists like Rachel or Rochelle Rosenberg is a colorist, and she's prolific. And the very first Veve exclusive cover to ever release on the platform was that Comic-Con Fantastic Four number 13. And that is the first ultra rare comic on the platform to exceed the value of the secret rare. So that's an example. That's Fantastic Four number 13.
Oh, that's the one with the moon face.
Yeah, it has the Watcher on, or
is
it the Beyonder or the? I think it's the Watcher on the front of it, and that was the
no
very
idea,
first exclusive cover on the platform, and it's worth more than the secret rare. The value of the art and the provenance of it being the first has basically, it's worth more than the scarcity value of that secret rare.
It's this
and
one.
That kind of set a precedent for what could happen.
It's this one, right?
I'm trying. It's That one.
Can I open that?
I don't know. Give it a click.
Yeah, I clicked this page. Maybe if I open the chart. So here we go. Here we see it.
And the artist for that one there's two. Rochelle Rosenberg is one of our exclusive artists who's on the platform with a ton of covers, and she works primarily as a colorist. And I believe it's Will Sliney, who's a Dublin-based artist. He did, you know, the pencil work and the line work for that, and she colored it. And those two have collaborated on a whole bunch of covers on the platform. But yeah, I remember whenever this comic exceeded the value of the secret rare, it was a huge thing on Twitter. People were posting about it and really excited because it set a precedent, you know, that maybe
Do you have that
the
one?
artistic value. I do. Yeah. I
Yeah,
have the
me
rare,
too.
the ultra rare. I don't have the secret rare of it. And I think it's because whenever I came to the platform, the secret rare was kind of priced out of my comfortable zone at that point in time. I should look again now that the market is what it is. There might be an entry point on that.
So I got this one. Actually,
Darnell says it's 30 days, not 6 months for the delisting. Appreciate that, Darnell.
Oh, yeah. Here, not 6 months. Yeah. Okay. So I got, my girlfriend got that one on the drop, like this this
Nice.
ultra rare. And yeah,
you
we were
keep in mind, Darnell, I was up to 1 a.m. doing the last video. I am on very little sleep. I'm not caffeinated enough.
This one, or I don't know what you're reacting on at the moment, so I didn't see that.
I was just talking to Darnell in the comments.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Actually, Darnell,
appreciate
you have
the
to scream at
clarification.
him. You have to scream with him so that he can feel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If he really is a gunnery sergeant, he might be hard of hearing because of all the time on range and down range. It may have impacted his hearing. I know all my time in the military has negatively impacted my own hearing.
Yeah, I made some experience with that as well, with the MG3, the belt-fed the belt-fed gun, which was just an adaptation from the 1942 one with 2,000 rounds per minute, and this one was like turned down to 1.5K or something. Yeah, well, just to talk aside. But you had more contact with arms than me.
Maybe, I don't know. I think the things that hurt my hearing the most is I actually attached with some EOD teams, and a lot of it was them training foreign forces how to use different kinds of shaped charges and different door breaching charges. And so I would set up one camera on a tripod, you know, kind of the sacrificial camera. So if it gets blown up, it's not a huge deal. And then I would be posted further away, but you could feel the impact of the air, you know, as like the wave came out. And even with earbuds in and Peltors over top of that, it would still ring my ears sometimes. So I'm sure that of all the things. And then also whenever I was a police officer, like small town and small city police officers don't care as much, it seems, about PPE, like wearing EarPro and stuff like that. So there was a lot of time on the range with people shooting and not announcing that they're shooting. So you're like, you know, 2 stations down and some dude starts unloading with like a shotgun or something, and you don't even have your hearing pro on yet. So your ears are just ringing. You're like, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate that. Been nice to know you're going live, but it's kind of what I came to expect whenever I was working as a police officer. That's why I don't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So as you have already seen now, the Corey has some more military experience there, also from the field, and his hearing didn't like it as much as he probably did. So yeah, I on the other hand side, I only enjoyed some training in the German army, but I never went overseas or to deployment or whatever you call it. So yeah, I mean, it's great to hear your stories. As you know, we have talked 2 hours off stream, and just like Corey's life story is just super impressing. I think to tap into this, you have to come back several more times and just give bits and pieces of your story and the one of your wife, maybe with your wife.
Yeah, we could do like an every other week thing, because my wife obviously is active duty right now in the process of rotating out of the military. But yeah, we should do this more regularly.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Great. So let's see what we have here in the chat. That's a great tool. Thanks. So you brought already some value here to the people in the sense of a real tool besides your channel, which is also a tool to get knowledge.
Maybe it might be time for me. Every now and then I produce a video that's just kind of, these are the tools I'm using to track different metrics and different things. And kind of
awesome.
just all the data that I accrue for my channel usually comes from a grouping of sources that I believe in and trust, like Go Collect, Marvel itself, Veve Set List, Cherry Charts, Ecomi Wiki. But when the drop schedule is as aggressive as it is, it's hard for me to do just kind of, here's a fun video. I'm like just trying to chase the drops and get all of them covered.
You will have to do, you will have so much work in the future, because you know that Veve is going to ramp up the drops when the users go ramp up, when the people are coming back from HRO, and the ones that are unhappy with the 2D enterprise coming back from Recur. No offense there now. And then you will have a lot to do. I mean, you haven't done videos on Last Designer Con, right? But there were like 3 drops a day for a whole week, and then right after Disney Golden Moments with the direct. I think that was your entry, right? The Star Wars drop on Golden Moments.
I started at Hitmonkey #1. That was the very first thing that I covered, and that was right after Designer Con, I want to say. I remember I started the channel and I kind of figured out what I was going to be doing during the 12 days of Veve, which was, again, an aggressive drop schedule. And I remember whenever I was doing it, I was like, you know, I just started my channel, so it didn't have hardly any subscribers. So I was like killing myself, and I was still going through the process of learning how to edit the videos properly to make them look, you know, of decent quality. So beyond just finding the information and placing all the images, I was also trying to figure out Adobe Premiere Pro and relearn, because I had that training because I was a combat cameraman in the military. I kind of had the background in Photoshop and Premiere, but it had been years and years since I touched those programs. So I was kind of going through my own personal learning curve. And, you know, you'd release a video and you get like 27 views because you just started your channel. And I was like, is this what I'm going to do? Is this a good idea? But I just stuck with it. And, you know, I do believe consistency and hard work pays off. And so I just keep grinding.
That's a military mindset already there coming through. You just push. You just see a wall, and there's only a couple of options, like go over it or break through it.
Yes.
But that's not the way that, hey guys, we are stuck. Let's just return. So yeah, I like that mindset a lot, and I think like this as well. So in the beginning of my channel, I had some sleepless nights because I didn't know how people would react, and I had always this horror vision that I would just wake up to 8 thumbs down and 13 views or something like that, and it never happened. Sometimes the algo didn't pick it up, but it was my fault because I didn't set the tags right, the title, the thumbnail, whatever, right? So, and you learn, like every day you're getting better, and I mean, it's just, if you look at your channel, amazing quality of these videos, of these little videos, but so it's well deserved that you're hitting the 3,000 mark. So everyone, after this stream, go there and bring him up to 3,000 subs.
Jeez, not about that. We'll get there. I try not to worry about it too much, to be honest, because I feel like you can just ruin your own experience by doing that. I try to just focus on what my goals are. My goals was to create evergreen videos that if you went back and looked at in a year, since they weren't based in speculation and current market trends, they would still have value, because it's just telling you, you know, kind of like that Coke drop. I didn't know that ultra rare was the first prototype can to go into space in 1985. I didn't know that, but I knew it after I made the video and I provided that information. And that information is never going to change. That can is always going to be the can that went into space during the Coke Pepsi Space Wars of 1985. And so that's what I try to do, and I try to think long term. You know, if someone's new to Veve and they want to look at a drop that happened a year before, they can still watch my video and the information still is valid, because the artist hasn't changed, the history hasn't changed. That's all the same. And that's why I don't do very much speculative content, because I don't feel the speculation is going to hold up over time. The market's too volatile and there's too many weird variables that can't be measured.
You're absolutely right, and I think that that is where people in a while, when we have millions and millions of people, like unique people, when the bots and the multiple accounts just got KYC'd away, then we will have these people going marathon on your videos, because they need to know what has been dropped on the app and what they should buy and why. So they're going to go through that. So in my case, it's a little bit different, because I make the videos based on what's coming out as news, and I try, as long as I personally believe in everything, to give people that are maybe insecure a little bit more of the security and the broader picture what I see. Like for example, it's not only the brands that, but something where they are centering to, or how the tokenomics work, so that people can get because we all know it somewhere in the back of our heads, but we need to hear that to really know if we are still on track with our investment. And I think, for example, we had this phase when we had Pixar Pals and Golden Moments and Golden Moments again. There were people that actually said it's only Disney and Disney and Disney, like, and I was like, man, but it's Disney committing like full ape to Veve and nowhere else. Like you have to see the signs, and sometimes you need someone to point that out. So I hope that the videos will age well in that sense, but there's probably not a point in going back 1 year from now and watching everything, because that everything will shift and change and new news will come up. But yeah, so that's the difference.
I think there'll be value long term whenever you're touching back on previous videos as things have changed on the app. It's a good starting point, because what a channel like yours is going to provide people is a roadmap. This is where we were and this is where we are.
Yeah. It's also yeah, so people can head to this is the beauty of this little YouTuber community. People can head to your channel and they can just get all the information about the drops. they head to mine and they learn something about the broader picture. They go to like, I mean, if you see Randy is doing all these live streams where he's singing, Cavell is doing his $10 ones. If you need some really bullish engagement, then you go to that channel and get some dose of motivation, right? So he's a motivational speaker, and Tabs with all his like broader roadmap and his connection to a lot of deeper going information. So you have all these people, and there's so many new great people coming up, and we both, like, we are relatively new compared to these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as you said, we are going to, like, step by step, we're going to make our way. Let's see, just here we have Vitimon here saying it is easy to convert folks over to NFT comics when it is viewed on an iPad. I can't tell you how many times I have folks peeking my NFT comics at the airport law.
I agree with that 100%. In fact, I just got my hair cut, and I was talking, my barber was asking me, you know, what do you do? Kind of the thing you do whenever you sit down for a barber, and it's going to be like a shave and a haircut. So it's going to be an hour-long experience. You kind of just, you know, shoot the shit about different things. And he asked me, you know, some of the different things that I do, and I was talking to him about it, and I wasn't doing a good enough job explaining exactly what it was. And I was like, well, let me just show you. And it was me showing him comics, you know, and putting it on his because it's like not a super old school, but kind of like the big leather chairs, and he has his station. And I literally just put the comic down. I asked him what his favorite Marvel character was. It was Spider-Man. Lucky for me, because I have, you know, a ton of Spider-Man comics on the platform. So I opened up a Spider-Man comic, I put it in AR mode, I put it on his little station and let him flip through it, and it just blew his mind. Like he was like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, this is amazing. Where do I go to? He asked where to go to get it. We talked about HRO, and I was telling him, you know, if you see those cards in a Walmart, go ahead and buy those and just sell them on eBay right now, so you can like times 20 your money. So, you know, I left the barbershop, and I'm pretty sure that guy is now all about the thing. And it's those kind of interactions that Veve gives us whenever things look good. And that's why I was so critical about the Electra drop and some of the Marvel drops, where, in my opinion, if it doesn't look premium, it makes it very hard for me to sell the product for you. You know, I'm not going to show a person an Electra on the platform whenever I can show them, you know, a Rizzo or, you know, literally any DC statue, because the quality difference. You want to show people the best. So aesthetically, I typically lean towards DC if I'm showing someone collectibles.
Yeah, exactly. So I honestly I completely agree with you, and I don't buy, and I don't even participate on those drops if I don't like them, because I think this is some kind of a feedback that you can give without hating on the project. But
Yes.
for example, that Matt Gondek stuff, like the weapons rack and so on, it's just not interesting to me. And when someone said, for example, it got disrespected because it's only 15 gems, I'd say it's exactly where I think it should be, right, from the price. Because not because I'm a complete hater on that, but because I just think it's not as premium or as interesting to me as things should be. On the other hand, I have like two little stories to share as well. So one is related to the comics in IR, and I have a grandmother, that one of the two grandmothers, that is really trying to keep up with the tech and everything. So she has an iPad, and she is texting. When I was living in Brazil, she was sending photos of the garden, and so like, and I sent photos of Brazil and stuff like that back to the iPad. And I showed her the AR stuff, and she can understand that. And she was like, "Whoa, you can go onto that comic and actually read something, because the eyes are not so good, but you go just closer and you can read everything." So imagine this with glasses. That was the one. And the other story that was amazing to me was, I have two cousins, and they're in the age of like 10 and 12, and I just put that Joe Madureira Batman on the table, like that was sitting there, like in the cartoons, and it was amazing to them. And then we went outside into that same garden as from my grandmother, and we just took the photos with the AR, like Captain America and the cousin shooting the shield of Captain America sprinting forward, right? So they had a ton of fun with Spider-Man hanging from the apple tree and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great, because you can see that actually we had like an hour of fun. No one wanted to do anything else. It's just take this collectible and put it there, and
And generationally, it's one of the exciting things that I get to do with my 6-year-old, my oldest son, Thor, is whenever we get like Voltron, whenever we get things that are really cool, it's the first thing he wants to do is he wants to go in the backyard, he wants to place it, and he likes to walk around it and look and scale it, make it huge, and he likes to go inside of it, and he's like, is there anything inside of this one? This one's empty. Or, you know, he's horrified because Sue Storm and Elektra, inside of their faces are their teeth and their tongue. Like, instead of it being empty inside of it, there was like teeth and tongue, and it like freaked him out. He was like, why are those in there? What is that? But it's that kind of wonderment. I think the reason those are there is because they're using a standard ragdoll model to create all of the Marvel. A janky thing about Marvel, we just had the DC Batman drops, right? And every one of those is named after the artists and sculptors that created it. Who are the artists and sculptors for Marvel properties?
Trevor, apparently.
And that for me is the biggest issue in terms of long-term value. A lot of times a collectible is collectible because of the provenance, the person who created it, and not knowing that information is kind of the downside. And it's a bummer because all of the Marvel figures that we've had drop on the platform, there are beautiful physical collectible statues for every single one of them that you could go buy. I really wish they would adjust their licensing agreement and start using some of those statues and collectibles that exist, so we can do the matching pairs like we do with DC, and so the quality would be higher. It's kind of a bummer.
Garrett says, I often refer back to Corey's vids when making moves in the market. Excellent resource. So there you have it, man.
Appreciate that. I do my best. Here's an interesting thing. You mentioned Matt Gondik's weapon rack. I actually went back and I listened to the Twitter space that was with Matt Gondik, and there was one that was recorded that I listened to, and something that he mentioned that I didn't notice, and I didn't mention it in my info dump because I didn't notice it. is he said that all of the things in that weapon rack ultimately might be usable by characters that he's going to be releasing later. So that's not confirmed utility, but it's an interesting aspect of those. And I don't know what they cost right now, but I might snag one for like $12 just as like a speculative, if there is utility and you can give those items, because if you look at the rack itself, it's very reminiscent of whenever you were younger and you would get a toy like an action figure of Thor. It would come with like that plastic grid and you'd like break the swords and stuff out of it to stick into their hands. That's what that weapon rack looks like to me, like one of those grids that you pull the items out of in place. So the fact that he said that and it looks that way, I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, I'm obviously not going to ape into it and buy a million of them, but it might be worth it just to have one just in case. I don't know.
Wouldn't that contradict why this art was made in the first place, against police violence or stuff like that? So then
he said the inspiration, it wasn't specifically as like a protest piece. He said he came up with the idea during that event and what it would be like if he had like a weapons rack to defend his house or whatever. So it wasn't so much a political thing, but the inspiration for it, the idea came to him in that instance.
Well, that is very, very interesting. I didn't know that it's actually pointing so hard in that range of utility, even for the artists. I always thought that the artists are going to be a little bit left out of the utility stuff, but now I'm scared that this little other art monster thingy that didn't sell out is running around in the metaverse or something.
Well, the interesting thing is that contrarily, independent artists have the most control over the utility of their products, because for Marvel, DC, Disney, those major brands and licenses, it has to go through a whole bunch of different wickets to get the utility, because those are all, it has to go essentially through a board of people, but an independent artist has a large amount of control over the utility that's inherent in the piece, because they are the last and first say for that. There's only one person that has to be verified through, and it's them. And I think that's why we hear Dan Carruthers and Reese and David Yu say the first things that'll make the transition to OpenSea are going to be things from independent artists, because the work to make that happen, it's the least amount of work. It's just one person.
That's awesome. Portfolio says the only thing we know for sure, being so early, is that scarcity trumps all and is the best strategy moving forward. I think
I agree with that to an extent, but I'll kind of say what I said earlier. If all things are equal, if you look at every item that's ever been created on Veve and just pretend there's only one of them, right? There's one of every single item that's ever been made on Veve. How would you rank it then? And that's kind of a thing that I like to do if I don't want to focus just on scarcity, because ultimately everything will be scarce at a certain point. Things will be lost. People will just not be interested in Veve anymore, and they might just leave their stuff sitting in their platform. Things will be locked in bot accounts forever. They said the only way to get the things out of there is by verifying with KYC information. We're not going to confiscate those items, even if they're known bots. They're just going to stay there until KYC frees those items. So those items essentially are gone. And then when MCP rolls out the ability to burn items for points, that also is going to reduce the total circulating supply. So if all things are equal, if everything only has 10 available, what is going to be worth the most at that point? And that's one way that I look at different brands, IPs, franchises, and products. If everything was equal, and that's why for me, the last Batman drop, the Jim Lee was the most valuable, because if there was only 4 of those statues released, one for each, one Jim Lee, one of the Roca, one of all of them, the Jim Lee one by far would be the most valuable one, because Jim Lee is a legend. He is in charge of DC Comics, period. And so for me, that one becomes the most valuable, even if the market doesn't reflect it right now. But if all things were equal, Jim Lee would be the most valuable. So I think scarcity is super important to think about for sure for the short run, but long term, I think we got to keep in mind that a lot of things are just going to disappear from circulating supply from one way or the other.
So I totally agree with that, and the way you are putting that, I think that's very good advice, to just think of if there was only one and you could get that, what would that be, and what would you let sit in the shelf? By the way, Jay Lee, there are 2 of them right now with this last drop, right? Isn't there Jay Lee?
There is, but I don't think it's a Batman. I'm almost positive that the only Jim Lee Batman is the most current one. I think the other Jim Lee, gosh, I'm totally brain farting. I'm not sure. I don't think it's a Batman, though. I think that literally is the only Batman that's been produced by Jim Lee. But I don't want to say that 100% without looking.
And doesn't matter. The scarcity aspect, in my opinion, is it comes into play when you already consider IP brand and how much community you have behind that, because then it's like, do you have 2, 3, 5, 4, 5,000 with a million, like Spider-Man, for example? I think it's Googled, like the word Spider-Man is Googled 5 million times per month. So these are only people that are Googling that 5 million times per month. So that would be either 5 million people Google that once per month, which would be a strange ritual, or way more people than that. And now you have like 20,000 Spider-Man, something from the common. I'm thinking of how many comic collectors are there. And when I consider the numbers of secret rare, the Veve exclusive ultra rares, the Veve exclusive rare, and even all the numbers of the commons up to the ones with 60,000 editions, it's not so much. I have that Journey into Mystery secret rare where there are only 500 of, and I always think, what happens if you just pick the Marvel fans out of the multimillionaires, and I think there are 170 million multimillionaires on the world. You would find like more than 500 that are willing to pay a large amount of money for all those secret rares, right? And if you are one of those, if I would be one of those, I would go into the app with the intention to do something crazy. Like each comic, I'll own a secret rare. Like I'll have the whole secret rare collection to display it in my vault. So yeah.
An interesting thing that David, you said, like on the vein of comics and scarcity with comics, a lot of people don't realize, but Marvel Comics #1, the one that we have on the platform, which is kind of like the holy grail of comics, whenever that was printed, it was printed to death. The print run for that comic is probably one of the largest print runs to ever exist in history for comics. This is according to David Yu. This is David Yu sharing this. And what's interesting is, because it was so heavily printed initially, there wasn't a sense of value. And because of that, they weren't preserved like they should have been. And so over the course of time coming to now, there are very few of those that are graded in circulation that exist. And what's interesting about Veve is obviously our comics don't degrade, but 100% comics will be lost. They will be locked. They will be burned for points. So even for something like Marvel Comics #1 or any of those earlier comics that printed a whole bunch, those might still become some of the scarcest things that exist, because all the things I just said.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And Omi, I mean, we have heard it in interviews that whales basically announce that they're going to buy everything and then just burn most of it, just to hold super scarce things. And if you're the one who can withstand the urge to already sell and have one of these, then you're owning it together with some of these whales. And so in the last time that I spoke about this, there was the comment, why would you do that if the equivalent of so many comics holds the same value as if you shrink it down to one? But it's the same reason for why people are uploading videos, how they are buying a Marvel's #1 secret rare for 80,000 gems on the app, knowing that this could be like in 1 or 2 months cheaper. But they imagine what will happen if people can start posting a video, even maybe with an animation, how they are burning a collectible, even a valuable one, like an ultra rare or of a comic that costs then 2,000 to 3,000 gems. There's no money for these guys. Yeah.
And then also keep in mind, the people that will be doing those burning, a lot of them are going to burn things they don't care about, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a popular thing. Like, I really like Star Wars, but someone might come to the platform that doesn't give a crap about Star Wars, and they might just start burning Star Wars stuff for points for the next drop that's coming, which might matter to them a whole bunch. And that's the interesting thing about all of the different niches that are developing on the platform is there's a group of people for every niche, even posters, which are exceptionally, you know, low value on the platform currently. Even the comic, not Comic Con, but the convention exclusive posters, which only minted, I think 1,954 would, I think is what it is. Those are very, very limited. They cost very, very little, but there's a group of people that exist that collect nothing but posters. Clearly they're not here yet, or the posters would be worth more, or they're here and they've collected their bags and they're just not talking about it, because I think your really hardcore collectors aren't going to announce everything that they do. They don't want a bunch of people to like the same stuff that they like, because they want to get good prices and have those things. But when the burning utility comes, I think a lot of us are going to be surprised at the things that get burned, because they might be very popular things. And we're like, why on earth would you burn 4,000 Wonder Womans? You know, Wonder Woman's an awesome character. What are you thinking? And they'll just be like, I don't give a crap about Wonder Woman. I need points because X, Y, and Z is dropping next month. And I want to have as many lottery raffle tickets as possible so I can quadruple my chances at landing that. I don't care about this. And so that's going to be a paradigm shift on the platform.
And you could even think of I could even say to our audience, you might be someone who's burning collectibles, you just don't know it yet. What happens if you have your master collector program and your progress and your life displayed with badges, and you get, for example, what if there was an achievement for burning at least one collectible? So then you have 5 million users on the app, and everyone has to at least select one that he has to burn to get that I burned a collectible badge. It's like, okay, let's pick that shitty House of X comic that I bought for 5 gems and just burn this thing. Like, or my Superwoman that I have stacked 20, let's just burn one. So, and if that happens like millions and millions of times, just for everyone, you will see that in the price.
I don't even know what the latest numbers are, but let's say there's 1 million users and just a quarter of them decide to burn one thing. That's a quarter of a million collectibles that are just gone. They're just gone forever from circulation across the board. If there's, let's say, 10 million users at some point and just 5% of them decide to burn just one collectible, what are the numbers burned? And it's that scale, it's that idea of scaling upwards and the implications of that on circulating supplies. And that's why right now scarcity is super important. 100%. Like, I agree, scarcity is super important right now. But eventually, I truly think pretty much everything's going to be scarce unless it's so niche. And that group, there's some niche collectibles that's going to take a long time for that group of collectors to come to the app, if they ever do. You know, I think the person that's collecting Toby plush, pleather fleshed collectible things, I don't know when they're going to arrive in the NFT space. It might be a while. But for a lot of these other things, those people are going to come. They're going to come in mass, and they're going to burn all the stuff they don't care about. There's a lot of people that don't give two craps about comics, and comics are super cheap. They're just going to burn the crap out of them so they can get the things that they do care about. Some people don't believe in comics and they do believe in collectibles. Some people only believe in collectibles and they don't believe in comics. Some people only believe in a niche of a collectible. And so whenever we're thinking of just user mentality, it's hard to make assumptions on what's going to happen. But I do think it's fair to say, once the gamification aspect of being ranked globally as a collector, it's going to cause some crazy things to happen, some things that I don't think any of us can really foresee the implications of just yet.
Yeah, man. That's such a, and also this could be a strategy thought, right? Because some of these weights might already be slowly accumulating. Some of these completely under drop price sold comics, like the one today, for example, that is available, like 20, 30, 40, 50 of them for 3 gems. That's nothing. You could just say, as a whale, I'm going to collect all this stuff. I'm going to pile up on this to then just burn the hell out of it. Because when this 1-for-1 Banksy thing is rolling through the raffle, I want to have a chance with like thousands of tickets. Or when this, let's say, when these Pikachus and the stuff drops on the app, I just want to raffle through this thing and get something almost for certain. So that could be a strategy, and you wouldn't feel it, because if these people are buying slowly, it's just as with Bitcoin. You either do it OTC, or you do it just so slowly that the rest of the market doesn't see you doing it. Yeah.
It's going to be wild times, and it's going to be interesting for all of us watching this right now and involved with it to see what's going to happen. Because again, the gamification aspect of ranking alone, it's going to cause all kinds of crazy things. And I mean, I see people post on Twitter their vaults, and some of those vaults are like, there's over 1,000 collectibles in them. You know what I mean? And it's to them, it's not a big deal. And I'm over here, I'm like, wow, like I finally broke 100 comics. You know what I mean? Like those are milestones for me, but milestones for collectors are directly correlated to the amount of capital they have to invest. So, you know, for me, I have 1 million Omi. That's what I have, and that's probably all I'm going to have. And for me, that's what I wanted to have because it would be the easiest maths for me. So, you know, whenever I check Omi every now and then, I can immediately do that math and be like, okay, this is what it's worth right now. But some people buy chunks of 1 million every couple days, and it's not a big deal to them. And so the economics of scale are going to come into play, and it's going to cause some weird things to happen.
Yeah, if you want to see what individual money is out there, you just take a look at these Ethereum whales and what's still coming, and you're like happy with your 1 million Omi. Me too. Yeah, so I have 150 something comics, 70 collectibles. Okay, that's fine. Little sets because I focused completely on comics. But I mean, did you hear of this guy? I think it was 2 days ago. Post screenshot that just bought $1 million of Bitcoin every day. He's like, bum, bum, bum. Every day he's DCAing into Bitcoin. That's crazy.
I can't even imagine.
Marcus Cole says, big thank you to the both of you. All the info content is so helpful. Corey's drop info videos are the best out there.
Thank you.
It's not even close though.
I do my best. I really do. We do put a lot of time behind the scenes into those videos because it's important to me. Like I said at the start of this, I don't just buy everything that comes. I try to stay informed. Did you see the Voltron inside the Coke? Yes, I did see that on Twitter. Jim Farr saying, did you see the Voltron inside the Coke footprint in a showroom? Basically what they did is they expanded that Coca-Cola. I think it's it goes common, uncommon. I think it's the rare. It's like that weird piece of rock that kind of has the stamp in it. They made it so big that they're in the negative space inside of it, and the negative space inside of it is full of stars. So they expanded it, which created like basically specks of stars and constellation, and they put Voltron inside of it. It looks so awesome.
That's awesome. Like people claim that Veve is full of crypto investors that don't care about anything, and then you're just looking at all these people creating these insane showrooms, right? So
I had this crazy theory. Obviously, I don't do speculation videos and I don't tell people what to buy, and I try to pump things, but I had this crazy theory a long time ago with the Marvel Mighties whenever they were super underappreciated, and they're super kind of they're really cheap. I guess a better way of saying underappreciated is they're low cost due to how many are produced and what they look like. But I thought maybe the ones that had kind of the static animations might have more value over time, because people who collect things just to make pretty vaults would want like the laser beam effects. They wouldn't care about the character that's shooting the laser beam, but that laser beam effect acts as a spotlight. And I see those spotlights being used in so many of these vault creation videos. And I was like, maybe I should just get some of these to hold on to. So whenever people come, and they come just so they can create crazy looking vault scenes. There's even a YouTube account right now that uses a Rizzo, Batman, and one of the Robins. I'm not sure which Robin it is. And he's creating like a series of stories. And they're awesome. They're so fun to watch. I think there's only 2 videos right now. I wish I knew that content creator off the top of my head so I could like shout it out.
It's the Veve show.
The Veve show. Absolutely check that out. But whenever I see people like that doing that kind of thing, it makes me really excited about things that I wouldn't be excited about, because I'm like, oh yeah, there's a group of people that are just going to get these because they do a thing. You know, maybe it's not worth much, but Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, these are really well made. So even though some people think it's basic, but this is actually apparently in the internet, that's a thing. Like they did all this role playing stuff with GTA and I don't know what games. And before that, I think it was with Team Fortress characters that they already did stuff like that in movies. I mean, even the ones of us that have played World of Warcraft, like it that was 2004, 5, 6 that Tales of the Past came out and just use the characters. So we are going to, I think the metaverse will basically enable people to build their own storylines and movies where they are taking part in.
Like Red versus Blue Halo. I don't know if any of you have played Halo or familiar with Halo, the game, but there was a whole series of really funny shorts called Red versus Blue, and it was basically like a red Spartan and a blue Spartan. And literally they just took gameplay footage and voiced over it and created all these really hilarious shorts, and that had a massive following. So sometimes I see things like that. I'm like, should I get these just in case someone's like, I need laser beams for my latest show? I'll be like, I have laser beams. Here you go. Here's the thing.
Yeah, people are utilizing only parts of a collectible to do something completely different. Like they take the eyes of that Marvel bubblehead for as a laser beam for then the Enterprise or a spotlight or stuff like that.
So cool.
And or the Borg cube as a wall for their showroom. So actually, we can be happy that not everything is coming already with the accessories, because you need to be creative with what you have to build all of that. Right.
Hey, OBL showed up. Orange Bag Lady, welcome to the stream.
Oh, yeah.
Always good to have you here.
Evening, gents, she says.
The class. It's so classy.
We also have the supreme leader here. Greetings from Germany.
That profile picture.
And that kills me every time. He is actually in a German Veve group, and he is making fun of my English skills. So yeah.
Your English is amazing. I'm so jealous of anyone that can speak multiple languages. That's such a amazing skill to have.
Thank you very much. I mean, you are born with this, so that's also fine.
I mean, I lived in Japan for 3 years, and I picked up like the smallest amount of Japanese, so I could use taxis and go to restaurants and stuff like that. And language is such a perishable skill. You know, if you just don't use it, you kind of just lose those skills. And like we talked about privately, I think you having the ability to speak multiple languages is going to be such a boon for you once we get more mass adoption on the platform. You know, having those abilities to reach those different groups, it's just going to be immense, and it's going to be a huge value to the community.
I hope so. I hope we get all that Brazilian community in. 220 million people.
It's a lot.
We want that. Yeah. Just joined. Is burning confirmed? Well, if you call it as part of staking tier 3 in the OUP first iteration article, I guess it's kind of confirmed, although nothing is confirmed until it's rolled out, right? I mean, buybacks were also confirmed until they became a regulatory issue.
Correct. By the way. And then even comics, since we're trying to focus on comics, but even comics in the initial iteration of the MCP, if you collected a series of comics, you got a special MCP point bonus. And then when the next iteration of the master and since you're new to the platform, the MCP is the master collector program, and that's going to give you points and bonuses for holding certain things. So every day you'll get points, and those points will be able to use to increase your chances at a drop or acquire cool cosmetics and display platforms for your vault. And so initially you would get bonuses for a series of comics, and then the next iteration, the MCP came and they did away with that, and they just increased the overall value of each comic. But the burns, to me, feel like it's an integral part of the overall staking tier system. So for me, it feels less likely that they would just throw that out, and less like you're saying there's some sort of regulatory weird thing that we don't understand that comes into play.
Yeah. I mean, for the collectible burning, there will be no issue inside of the app. They can do whatever the hell they want with the collectibles mechanics, I believe.
But could Veve artificially inflate the value of the coin by acquiring and burning their own NFTs to reduce the total circulating supply of? Does that make sense? I'm not a crypto guy, so Those are just things that I don't understand completely.
Technically they could, but the problem is not with the burning, but with them acting on the burns. So if
Okay.
if this is something that happens between parties that are not I mean, if not already setting a certain supply to a collectible and therefore giving it value would be a problem. But
Gotcha.
like the concept of the NFT is full ownership, right? So if you want to, I have said that in the banned accounts in the Veve Black Pill video, that do we really own our NFTs? And I said in that you do have to do everything that you can do with a physical item as well. You can rent it to someone, you can send it to someone, you can give it as a present, you can buy and sell whenever you want to, and you must be able to destroy it as well. So basically the only thing that doesn't account for this is that you cannot repaint it or something like that, so that you cannot change it. Maybe you could even put accessories on it, like a pullover on the Deadpool, or take it off or whatever. I hope so, at least. But other than that, I think you should be able to do everything that you want with it. And if someone said, I own this thing and I want to destroy it, I mean, giving the mechanic of destruction to them, there's also another thing that the community could do instead, and it's just define a burn wallet where they don't have access, like a MetaMask wallet, and just send it there once it's interoperable, and then you have the same effect, basically. But so I think it's very possible that, yeah.
I wonder if anyone's tried to shove Deadpool. You mentioned Deadpool. If anyone's tried to put him inside of that Coca-Cola orb. Because remember, you could take Deadpool and you could put him inside of the Coca-Cola snow globes, and it removed his Christmas clothes. So you could get a bare bones, like, for whatever reason, whenever you put Daredevil, you put Deadpool into the snow globe, it removed his Christmas sweater. So I haven't seen if anyone's tried to shove him inside of the uncommon Starlight orb just yet. I need to do
someone
that.
in the chat that has the orb and the Deadpool, try
Please
that,
do
and
that.
also try it with Supergirl, and tell us what hey,
Supergirl's value skyrockets.
Yeah, exactly. Supergirl's values, and also the thing with kids on the app is gone.
The artist that made that Supergirl is like a prolific artist that focuses on the female form, and even has books on Amazon, like fine art books on how to draw beautiful women and the anatomy of women. And he was actually tasked with being the artist for Wonder Woman. And what happened was he essentially kept getting his work censored because he made Wonder Woman look too revealing and too sexy. And as a response to that, his contract to continue producing those comics was essentially revoked. And what he did is, on his own time, he created a whole series of super risque Wonder Woman covers that he just made himself and posted. And those are actually worth a fair amount of money, because they're just like, they're on the edge of being adult covers. Frank Chu, I think it's Frank Chu is the artist for that one.
You know so much about the artists and art, and I'm approaching the whole thing like, from I see something that looks cool, bye, right? It's just like I don't know the art. I go to your channel obviously to see it, what you say about this, but not for everything. Obviously, I've watched it, so sometimes it's just I don't know what the artist is, and then I was like, at one of the comics, it actually it's the uncommon of the House of X, which is Joe Madureira as well. I don't know, but this, I mean, this must be one of the most favorited uncommons on the app from the cover art. Yeah, really nice coloring, and it was super different in the beginning when they dropped the comics. So yeah, I was like, wait, that's the same name as the Batman guy. It's like I had no clue what this is.
And it's an interesting thing to think about in the evolution of the app is March of that year, I want to say, was the Marvel month. And that was the first time we even saw comics on the platform. And now look what comics are. What is it now? January, February, March. We're 1 year and 1 month after the introduction of comics to the platform. And look what comics have done. on the
Wait,
platform.
comics. I think comics were only in August.
Was it
Because that's
August? I need to go back.
or not August maybe, but somewhere in the summer, so June, July, because that was when I believe as well. Correct me, guys, if I'm completely wrong here, but I remember it being summer when I joined the app, because I
Okay.
joined for the first Marvel comic ever. Like, my cousin tried to convince me to come to the app for Spider-Man, and I was like, $50 for a Spider-Man comic, and I was
If
like,
only you knew.
$400 for a secret rare? No way! I'm out of here. And then he was like, again, coming on and said, you have to see this. They are bringing comics now. And then I was like, okay, comics, that's something I can relate to, because I've never collected statues, stuff like that. And
if it's August, it's even better, because that's even less time, right? It'd be
yeah,
less than a
exactly.
year that
It's less
comics have been
time,
on the
yeah,
platform.
yeah.
And look what a footprint. So whatever the
Yeah.
next major thing is, once I'm almost 100% positive that all of those wickets, MTL, MC, all waiting room, all that has to happen before the next major thing releases. But
Mhm.
I bet when that first comic released on the platform, unfortunately, I wasn't here for it. But I bet whenever it did, it was met with a huge amount of, is this going to be a thing? And look what it's become. So whatever the
Mhm.
next stage is, whether that's the introduction of a new publisher, which we know is going to happen. David Yu has said Marvel's the test bed for comics on the platform,
Yes.
and that there will be more comic publishers, but they wanted to figure out how to streamline comics before they started pulling those other publishers in. Whether that's comics, a new publisher, or some sort of card format, I can't help but, Hero is doing its thing, and that's super exciting. And as Reese and we talked about, we all rise together as the
Yeah.
tide lifts all of our boats. And I agree with him. It is proving the concept. So you got to know that Veve is looking both ways, right? HRO has watched Veve, and they've created a more polished thing because they've learned from a lot of the mistakes and missteps. And they're like, let's not do that. Whenever we release our thing, let's make sure these things are here so we don't have to deal with that kind of FUD. Conversely, Veve is looking at what HRO is doing, and they're saying, oh, okay, so maybe if we incorporate this, we incorporate that.
Yes.
Ultimately, this competition that's happening is going to enrich the user experience for both platforms. And so I'm hoping, because HRO is being so successful and it's receiving so much positive praise, that might encourage Veve to start onboarding cards a little bit more, because I've been waiting for a playable card format to release in NFT form.
Mhm.
I know that there's a couple that exist, like Gods Unchained, I want to say, is on the
Yes.
IMX pop.
It's on IMX.
I'm not involved with that one, unfortunately, and I haven't done a whole bunch of research, but I'm kind of waiting for that thing to drop on a platform that I'm using, because I would love to
Yeah.
have playable cards. As someone who's played playable cards since 1998, I started playing
Mhm.
Magic the Gathering back then. I'm definitely waiting for that, because I just think that's going to add a whole lot more fun to the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, and actually, I could imagine that Alfred Khan and the Veve team is actually learning from what other projects are doing, because the most important thing with card releases is the opening feeling. Like, if you have the Pokemon, like the booster packs, the whole thing is designed to give you a certain feeling. Like, there's even you won't have in the digital way the smell design, but you will have some kind of an animation. I think whoever has played Hearthstone can relate to that. The animation is very well done and all. Like, if you tap the cards, you can already see what rarity it is, but you don't know which
Beautiful.
one it is, and then you click one and it's like legendary or something like that, right? So they created, like, you are only waiting for the blast that you got the big card, that you got a big hitter there. And so I think they are probably going to play around with this experience to create a real experience around opening packs, so that it's coming close to what's a Pokemon pack. Yeah.
Which is why I'm never going to open my Hero digital packs, because
Mhm.
the Batman kind of, I call it a coffin. This is kind of what it looks like to me, is like a Batman coffin. Once that's
Yeah.
opened, it's gone forever. It's not like a physical pack where people sell the original Magic the Gathering and Pokemon empty packs, like just the wrapper it was in. They sell those on eBay
Mhm.
for a lot of money, because it's the first ever pack from the first release. And for me, it's like there isn't even a trace. After it's opened, it's gone forever. Like that digital casing that it was in itself might actually have more or less what's inside of it, which is going to be known. That's the difference, I think, is the blockchain reveals all. So the more packs that are open, people are going to be able to assign a percentage value to. There are this many, you know, that haven't been minted. So we know for a fact if there's, you know, 100 of these digital cases in existence, there's a 0.03% chance that it'll be one of the remaining legendaries of whatever, or remaining epic. So I do think there'll be dwindling value in what's inside of it, but the case itself, because it's gone forever, to me, I'm like, it might actually have value just for the case. So you could have the entire set of cards and the actual case that they came in as part of your collection.
That's awesome, man. I hope that you can withstand the urge to open that case. I mean, it's not going to be easy, right?
As long as Heather doesn't get my phone, we'll be okay, because she is a fiend for opening packs. I just know that all the physical ones we get are just going to get ripped to pieces.
So we have Planet Prophet here saying interesting.
Always good to see him in the chat.
Those guys are from coming over from your channel and your announcements, I believe. Never seen those guys here before.
Oh, really? Yeah, I see Planet Prophet in a whole bunch of different chats. I see him over in Veve Vibes. I see him on Rant. I see him all over the place. He's really active. Always has good information too.
So he is saying Veve is finding a balance between flippers and collectors. How will a true collector feel if a flipper burns 75% of their favorite collectibles that they want? Just thought, yeah, they better get onto the app right now before they can burn their stuff away, right?
And that's what we were saying. I don't know if you were in here just yet, Planet Prophet, but yeah, that's essentially what I was saying is what matters to you may not matter to the whale who's just burning things to burn things to get points for a thing they care about. And so the scarcity argument that scarcity rules everything, again, if everything was equal, if there was just one of every single collectible and every single comic of every single variant on the app, just one, which one is the most valuable due to its history, its brand, its artist, its franchise? And I think that's, for me, is the best way to navigate the overall value long term of the things that are here. Maybe not short term, you know, flipping and turning your 200 gems into $10 million in 10 minutes with my foolproof method of making gems on. But long term, if everything's equal, I think that's a good kind of litmus test to figure out how you want to position yourself. That's just me, though. A non-whale, a normie.
So Viversum has the thought that he's thinking MCP is already working right now in the background to prevent some accounts from participating in the drop. What do you think about this?
I have seen some interesting footage on Twitter of people with like I'm thinking of one particular video, and there's like 4 phones, and essentially the guy or girl, whoever it is, pushes buy on each one of the phones. And for the first 3, all additions are out. And then on the 4th one, the buy goes through. But it was the one that was pushed last. And essentially the tweet was like, any thoughts on this, you know, at Veve Official? And so whenever there's a conversation happening between creators and in Twitter Spaces, and I see it on Twitter openly about the concept of shadow banning. Certain people are being shadow banned, being locked. And while they said specifically in the last AMA that wasn't a thing, they've also told us in previous AMAs that bots weren't what they were. And the second that people were able to dig into the blockchain histories, and we use that comic as an example, there was 10,000 of the comics after Veve takes their cut. Let's say there's, you know, 9,400 of them. Of those 9,400, 273 of them went to a collector that had more than one collectible. The rest of them went to wallets that had no collectibles or just one, which is a pretty good indication that those are likely bot accounts. And the second that information was made public, and it was made public by more than just Bravos assassins, there was like 2 other kind of blockchain sleuthers that were major in releasing that, and it kind of went viral. You know, it was retweeted and shared a whole bunch. Right after that happened, within 24 hours, Veve locked down the ability to transfer items. So it does beg, it makes you wonder, you know, how aware were they of that? And Was the information we were given misinformation, or were they truly just clueless about that? I feel like they have more visibility on the blockchain than anyone else, but I also have a feeling that they might be operating with like a skeleton crew, maybe not a whole bunch of employees. And I asked that question directly during an AMA, and it wasn't even a FUD question. Like, truly, I'm curious because I talk to people who are at a level of finance where they want to know more than just the product on the platform. They want to know the people behind the product. And while we can talk about Alfred Khan all day, and that's great, they want to know how many employees are employed, how many people are working at this company. If it's only 5 and all 5 of them tragically get into car accidents on the same day, does the app fail?
Yeah.
You know, is there 50 employees? Is there 100 employees? How many studios? People with a lot of money need to know that information. And that's why I asked that during the AMA, and I didn't really get a response on that. And I'm still kind of waiting for that, because for me, that's important information to know. Like, I want to know beyond just the people that we're talking to, how many are involved, because that's important.
I mean, it could be a strategic edge to not reveal that, but by the way, way more important than this is Supergirl and Deadpool are still closed after putting them in the code. Damn. So
that would have been the hidden utility of the orb.
Yeah, not that utility at least. Yeah. So yeah, congratulations, Noble Familia, for scoring some HRO packs. And then we got Veve Vault here. Hey, what's up, man?
Always good to have you, Vault, in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
I slept through this morning's drops, or I would have been in there seeing how everyone did. I always go to Veve Vault's drops because it's a good indication to me of the bot protections, essentially, because whenever it was really, really bad for the initial drop, it was nothing but L's. You know, Chris, I think his name's Chris. Chris would be like, it's nothing but L's in the chat, but I bet we'll get him on the rebounds. And sure enough, you know, on the rebounds, you'd start seeing all the W's, and I would never get anything because my internet's trash and I never get anything. But it's been exciting recently, and I'm sure his analytics probably reflect this. The wins have to be causing like a rising sale for his viewership and for the overall community sentiment.
Yeah, of course. I remember that one. I think it was the Golden Homer drop where I was watching his channel on the side, and he was noting that there were not so many green trucks and wins posted in the channel, so that which meant that there must have been something stuck, right, in the pipeline. And at the time we didn't know exactly. I think at least I didn't know when you exactly have to hit for the rebounds. It was a 2-minute window at the time, so I did constantly hit it, and I just didn't give up because I knew, because of his chat and everything that he said during that there must be some stuck in the pipe still. And I was hitting at 20 minutes or something, I got a Golden Homer, and there were people that at 30 minutes or something that got that. My cousin, not that cousin that is banned since 150 days, but the other cousin, he got even the skateboard. So, but yeah, so great content from Veve Vault there.
What's he saying?
I tried to stop by, but yeah.
I've been hearing accounts who have never bought gems from the app before can't buy drops. People with the problem buy 10 gems on app, then they can get drops. That's interesting. I'm going to keep my ear to the ground on that one. That's really good information. Thank you for sharing that.
So my girlfriend cannot score drops because I've only sent gems to her account. I mean, she has the whole. She has almost all her collectibles besides the comics that I wanted on my phone all. But then after my cousin got banned, we stopped transferring anything. Like we were scared that we get banned for just transferring stuff. So yeah, so we have to actually put some payment method onto her account, load up some gems, so we can do it that way now.
And the answer to that problem was the secondary question I asked about how many people are employed at Veve was, what are the future plans for customer support on Veve? Because you can't be the Amazon of NFTs without having Amazon level customer support. And most of the FUD and backlash that we would see on Twitter and other spaces from people with restricted accounts who, you know, your cousin is innocent as far as you're aware, but a lot of people who are spreading this information aren't innocent. They're bots and they've been caught and they've been banned. But if there was a robust customer service like apparatus with chat and quick reply and personal information, the amount of that stuff making it to Twitter wouldn't quite be what it is, because then you would be outing yourself, because there's all of these things in place for you to get your account back. I was locked out of Coinbase like 2 months ago for whatever. I think my VPN changed my IP, which flagged me on Coinbase. It took me less than 24 hours to get my Coinbase back. And, you know, your cousin, it was months, like a month between. I remember watching your video on that journey of restriction. It would take like a month for them to get just a generic email, the same email that everyone else is getting. And those are the people that are going onto Twitter and causing, you know, they're not spreading FUD, they're sharing their story. And some of those people are guilty and are using bots, but some of those people are innocent. And there was a guy on Twitter that I would talk to all the time, and he was from Israel, and he got blocked and restricted. And I remember he went on Twitter and he was tagging Veve official, and all of the replies were like, "You're a bot. That's what you get. You deserve." He got his account back. You know, he got his account back in a month, and everyone's so quick to label someone else without knowing anything about their situation as a bot. And a lot of these people aren't. You know, a lot of these people are unfortunately being restricted because of increased bot protections. And that's great, but Veve also needs to plus up that customer support apparatus, because it's just a matter of time before Fred Durst or Andre Jick or Logan Paul or one of these major personalities gets restricted, and they just go on Twitter and it's a fire show. You know, they're just like, Veve is a scam. They've locked me from my account. I emailed them. I got one email back. It's been a month. I haven't heard anything. Get out of this project while you. It's only going to take one person of notoriety to do that, and it's going to cause some irreparable damage. The solution to that, more customer support. Put a little bit of that budget into plussing that up. I don't know why they haven't done that yet.
I absolutely agree. And there's some detail to the case of my cousin. It's not only a suspicion if he's innocent, he is confirmed by the support innocent, and he didn't get his account back, because they sent him a message that after, like, this was after 70 days. And they were like, after further reviewing you, after accusing him of being a botter, and there's no way. After further reviewing your account, we came to the conclusion that we falsely banned your account, stuff like that. So I showed that on another follow-up video, on an update video, and we were celebrating here on the phone that he would get his account back. And even now, I can somehow maybe defend Veve in the sense of that there is something on the phone, like that is from the phone provider, but you should know that by now, that triggers this, even though the person doesn't know and doesn't know how to get rid of it. So he has whatever Xiaomi thing as a phone, and he got that phone new before he got banned. So he participated in a drop, didn't get the drop, so he is the worst botter alive. And then he got banned for it, and his wife as well. So, and then 70 days of struggle and me making all these videos and stuff like that and trying to reach a team. And then he got the message that he's innocent. And then they said that then he couldn't log in. That he tried to log in and it was still disabled. And he went back to support another 2 weeks. Then should work now. Can you log into your Gem wallet? And so, yes, I can log into my Gem wallet, but not in the account. And then then he tried, and then I said, okay, we released it now, you can log in. He logged in, couldn't get in, still disabled. They said, you did it again, you're banned. So he didn't even get like the chat. And then they said in the AMA, if you have a specific problem, go to the Discord, report it there, it could go faster. Then he went to the Discord, got kicked and banned from the Discord immediately. It's like, so the story is still going on. He's still following up on the tickets in a nice way. And yeah, I still try to somehow find a way to just. We would even send his phone to New Zealand by like on our own cost, so that they could examine what the fuck is going on with that phone.
And the fact that you can't even do that. Yeah. We talk about mass adoption and, you know, win Pokemon, win this. Whenever you onboard the number of people that Pokemon would bring onto the platform, if these issues still exist, it's going to be so damaging for Veve's PR, public relations, their ability to keep on top of negative user feedback. And so I don't want Pokemon to happen in the next week. I don't want,
No,
you know, a
never.
whole series of awesome. I need them to figure that all out and then release those big things, because right now, if they open the floodgates, it would be pretty damaging. I don't think it would destroy the project, but it would set the project back.
Yeah, I hope that they some kind of can put a corrective measure into that. Like, for example, if you get rid of all the accounts with 0 or 1 collectible that have been involved in nefarious activities, and you just focus on, in the end, of the ones where you have the suspicion that this cannot be right, like the account of my cousin that he won a secret rare on a comic drop, super happy and stuff like that, put a lot of money into that. You can see that you wouldn't, and he didn't hit the drops because his phone was so old and stuff like that. You can see that if you look into history. And my wish or my strategy as Veve would be that you would say, okay, once we roll out this overall KYC, and these guys have already KYC because of the support ticket process, but from there we'll just give these accounts with these organic grown collectibles a fresh start, right? With let's say a warning shot or something, like a notice: you have been flagged once, you have to whatever, like take care or something, because that would be ultimately the way to get people where you just cannot figure out anymore what happened, like the next chance, while you keep the other ones obviously botters banned, right?
100%.
But I'm biased, so I'm biased because of that story, obviously. And
I mean, everyone's going to be biased as soon as it happens to either them or someone in their circle of friends and acquaintances. And that's the reality of it, because so much of what Veve is right now is word of mouth marketing. And it's kind of scary to market this to friends and family whenever you know potentially they could get flagged for these things. And then it's not just Veve's fault anymore. It's your fault for recommending this platform to them. And now they've had their money and their collectibles locked. And there's no recourse for it right now. Not a fluid way that makes sense, at least. And that makes it much harder to market.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I want to talk about Veve in the sense that I did before, and like we were all day talking about Veve. Now he doesn't want to talk about it anymore because he cannot access it, and it's just too. I mean, imagine you seeing all these drops and sitting since 150 days on the sidelines, watching that all happen, like watching these drops rolling in, right? So we have some hints here.
Hints.
Yeah, I don't know. Supreme. This guy.
Backdoor KYC. Oh yeah.
Kind of backdoor KYC by paying until the right KYC is there. What does it mean? I don't understand.
It's people basically finding ways around issues that they're having in terms of if shadow banning is a thing, or this is a way to get around it. And that's the sad truth until Veve gets more legitimate safeguards in place, more KYC in place, a customer service apparatus in place, is that it is cat and mouse. People are always going to find a way to defeat. Whenever I was in the military, I had to train people in breaching at combat camera, because you would be assigned to teams, and there's a potential you could be the one that's helping breach a door. And a thing that the instructor told me whenever I was receiving my instructor training that's always stuck with me is that a door, no matter what it is only as strong as the people on the other side of it, their means, their ability, and their motivation to get through that door. So whether that door is made out of popsicle sticks or whether that door is made out of steel, someone can get through that door with enough time, with the right tools, and with enough motivation. And right now, the safeguards in place are only preventing people from getting through, a popsicle stick door. That door needs to be steel. It needs to be reinforced, and there needs to be major barriers to entry to get through that door. because they have to realize that the motivation for the people to get through that door is monetary, and nothing is going to motivate people more than money. And so in turn, they need to invest more money, time, and effort into strengthening that door. Like, that's what it comes down to. It's never going to be, there's never not going to be bots. And if you're involved with literally any other platform that exists, bots are everywhere. There's just people that are, and the second they open this thing up to web platform, you screw your hats on for that, because as soon as the web platform opens, that opens a whole new door in terms of people working to defeat the systems in place to prevent them from getting in. So I'm kind of like mentally preparing myself for that as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And have you? I think that was Dr. Profit who posted that. You have seen that the proposition that you would have 40% of drop part allocated to OMI utility program, 40% to MCP, and then 20% to like all the users that are, let's say, only participating in the normal part without raffle tickets. So this could be a very big door to overcome, because that would actually force bot accounts to continue and then to risk stacked collectibles to be able to afford tickets to then put them into the raffle. So whether you like it or not, that the allocation of 40-40 and then 20 is actually pretty good, because if not, you're giving 80-80 to the bots, right?
Because KYC in itself isn't foolproof. And I think anyone that's done any work in cybersecurity, in the cybersecurity field, understands that you can just get identity information just like you would off Amazon from different websites. And you could go through the entire KYC process with entirely fraudulent information. And if the carrot is worth that, if the reward for doing that is more than your initial investment to get those things, those people are going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we have been talking 2.5 hours already.
Have we really? Holy yeah, you're right. Holy smoke.
Like it's 2 hours and 26 minutes, 46 people still in here and listening to us rambling about everything. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty good time to
Fair.
To call it a day. But I just wanted to point out once more. So thank you for coming on here.
Of course.
Bring your story, bring your metaphors from your military experience, your channel, your overall experience to this channel, and it was super interesting. And these 2.5 minutes, I wanted to say, but hours flew by as it was minutes. So yeah, this is absolutely amazing, and
we should definitely do this again, right? Maybe in a week or so. Yeah, I'm more than happy to chat with you anytime.
That would be great. And so thanks for stopping by to everyone else. I don't know, Corey, do you have anything that you want to tell the audience, like as last words for this stream, or already?
No, it's just great getting to chat. I would encourage you, if you're posting information on Twitter and you're trying to get acknowledgement from the powers to be, try to think about how you're providing that criticism. I think the biggest issue that I see personally is a lot of people are willing to flame projects and flame ideas, and there's a way to provide criticism in which it can actually be received, and there's a way to just sensationalize and put out information. So I think Veve is willing to hear feedback, and I believe that because after I did that interview with David Yu, all the questions that were asked in that Elite Comics 11 Comics and Crypto interview, those were all pre-scripted questions. He knew what all those questions were. After that interview was done and none of this aired, he didn't just leave. He pulled out a literal piece of paper and a pencil, and he asked for honest feedback about comics specifically. What were the biggest issues that we were seeing from our viewers on our channels and from our interactions and our personal issues? And we just gave him feedback, and he wrote that down. And that to me seems like the sort of genuine interest that someone's actually invested in the project. If he didn't care and this was just PR, we would have done that interview, and the second it was over, he just would have pieced out. He'd been like, all right, great chat, guys, I got to get going. But he didn't. He spent an extra 30 minutes just writing down our feedback and offering, you know, short bits of information back. And so this is a company that's very willing to hear feedback, but I think we need to think about how we're providing that feedback. No one wants to be yelled at. No one wants to be criticized, and people do want to improve. So that would be my signing off information, is just, if you have suggestions for the app, just try to think about how you're providing them, and try to make them meaningful.
I think that fits perfectly into these times. Thank you for that signing off statement. And thank you everyone here for joining and for giving us the positive feedback throughout the stream. And don't forget to subscribe here.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. See you all wherever you are. My final words, wherever you are on the world, have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon, and see you in the next video or live stream. Bye.
See you later, everyone.